The sky over Wyoming stretches wide, endless and quiet. In the fall of 1998, the wind cut sharp across the open plains, carrying whispers through a town that thought it was safe. But on one October night, that sense of safety was shattered. This is the story of Matthew Shepard. Matthew was 21, a college student, political science major, son, brother, and friend. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but people noticed him. His smile, the way he cared. His dream was to work in human rights, to be a voice for those who couldn't speak up. On the night of October 6th, he went out to a local bar in Laramie, the Fireside Lounge, like any other college kid just looking for a night out. What he didn't know was that two men were watching him, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. They weren't there to make friends. They weren't there to share a drink. They had other intentions. Witnesses later said they acted friendly, as though they wanted to hang out, but once Matt left with them, his fate was sealed. The three of them drove out of town, down back roads that led into an open prairie. There, in the stillness of the night, everything changed. The men tied Matthew to a wooden fence post. They beat him with fists, with a pistol. The blows were vicious, calculated, and unrelenting. And they left him, bound, alone, and bleeding. The Wyoming night is unforgiving. The temperature dropped near freezing. Hours passed. Matthew was barely alive, but he was still breathing, still fighting. 18 hours later, a cyclist rode by. At first glance, he thought he saw a scarecrow tied to the fence. Then he realized it was a young man. Matthew's face was caked in blood, except for two clean streaks where tears had carved their way down his cheeks. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors tried. Machines kept him alive, but the injuries were too severe. His skull had been crushed, his brain stem damaged. On October 12th, 5 days after the attack, he died. The news spread quickly. At first, another crime in a small town, but once the details surfaced, that Matthew was targeted because he was gay, the violence was fueled by hate. The story erupted across the nation. Laramie, Wyoming found itself in the spotlight. Cameras arrived. Journalists filled the town. Locals were forced to reckon with the question, how could this happen here? Candlelight vigils appeared almost overnight. People who had never met Matthew stood shoulder to shoulder in silence. In Wyoming, in New York, in London, around the world, his name became a symbol. The trials of McKinney and Henderson revealed the depths of cruelty. Both were sentenced to life in prison. The so-called gay panic defense was floated, the idea that unwanted advances justified the attack. The jury rejected it, but the attempt only added fuel to the outrage. For Judy and Dennis Shepard, Matthew's parents, grief became mission. They made a choice. Their son's story would not fade. They spoke publicly, not just about their loss, but about change, about the need for laws that recognize crimes of hate for what they are. It took more than a decade, but in 2009, President Barack Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. For the first time, federal law explicitly protected victims targeted because of sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. The fence where Matthew had been tied became an unintentional memorial. People traveled to see it, to leave flowers, to cry, to pray, to remember. It was later removed, but the image of Matthew bound in that cold Wyoming night has never left the public consciousness. More than 20 years have passed, but Matthew's name is still invoked when hate crimes make the news. His parents continued their work through the Matthew Shepard Foundation, speaking out against hate, reminding the world that their son was more than a victim. He was a young man with a future that was stolen. The story of Matthew Shepard is not just about what was lost. It's about what his death forced a nation to confront. Hatred that hides in plain sight. Violence that escalates when intolerance is ignored. And the resilience of those who refuse to let tragedy be the final word. Matthew Shepard's life was cut short, but his story lives on. If you found this case was important as we did, Help us keep Matthew's memory alive. Like this video, subscribe to Midnight Verdict, and share it so people can understand the real cost of hate.